I want you to imagine sitting at your own kitchen table in the house you built with your own hands and having your son slide a piece of paper across to you and say, "Mom, you owe $412,000. Pay it by Friday or we lose everything." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked at that number and felt something inside me go completely, totally still. And within 72 hours, I was gone. No forwarding address, no goodbye, just gone.
My name is Linda. I'm 61 years old, and for most of my life, I did everything right. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, not rich, not poor, just hardworking middle-class people who believed that if you showed up every day and did the honest thing, life would reward you. And for a long time it did. I married my husband, Gerald, when I was 24. We had 2 kids, our daughter, Melissa, and our son, Derek. Gerald worked in manufacturing. I managed the books at a local insurance agency for 32 years. We weren't living lavishly. We were living carefully. Every dollar had a place. Every decision was thought through. When Gerald passed away from a heart attack in 2018, something in me changed. Not broke, changed. I was 68 days away from retiring. I had $280,000 in my 401k, a paid-off house worth about $190,000, and a small life insurance policy from Gerald that paid out $95,000. That was my world. That was everything I had built. Melissa, my daughter, was living in Denver with her husband and 2 kids. We talked every Sunday. She was doing fine. Self-sufficient. Proud, even. Derek was a different story. Derek was always the charming one. Smooth talker, big dreamer, the kind of guy who could walk into a room and make everyone feel like he was the most important person there. In school, teachers loved him. Girls loved him. He had this magnetic energy that made people want to trust him. And I loved him fiercely. The way only a mother can. After Gerald died, Derek started coming around more. Calling more. Taking me to lunch. Checking in on the house. I thought, my God, losing his father really matured him. I thought grief had turned him into the man I always knew he could be. I was so wrong. The first sign was subtle. So subtle I almost missed it. About 8 months after Gerald's funeral, Derek started asking questions. Casual questions, you know, the kind you don't notice until later when you're piecing it all together in the dark at 2 in the morning. Mom, do you still have the same financial advisor? What does he charge? Have you thought about moving that 401k somewhere with better returns? I remember laughing it off. Derek, honey, I'm 60 years old. I don't need better returns. I need to not lose what I have. He nodded. Smiled. Let it go. Then one day, he brought a friend over. A guy named Travis, mid-30s, sharp dresser, very polished. Said he was a financial consultant with a boutique investment firm. They sat in my living room and Travis explained an opportunity, a real estate development project down in Florida. Residential condos on the coast. He said the returns were extraordinary. Said people were doubling their investment in 18 months. I said no. I said it clearly and without hesitation. But Derek didn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, it was a slow drip. Mom, Travis said, the window is closing. Mom, I already put in $40,000 of my own money. Mom, don't you trust me? That last question. Don't you trust me? I should have held firm. But this was my son. My baby. The boy I had rocked to sleep through 2 ear infections and a broken arm, and the night his high school girlfriend broke his heart. When he looked at me and asked if I trusted him, I caved. I signed over $60,000 from my 401k to invest in Travis's project. That was in the spring of 2019. By that summer, Derek was calling more, but now the calls felt different. Tighter. More urgent. Travis kept sending emails with charts and projections that looked impressive but never actually showed real numbers. No addresses. No permits. No photographs of actual construction. I started asking questions. And here's what happens when you start asking questions: the stories start to change. First, Travis said there were delays in permitting. Then it was supply chain issues. Then the project was pivoting to a different location. Every month a new explanation. Every month, no money. But Derek kept reassuring me. Mom, I'm watching this closely. I have more skin in the game than you. I promise. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. But what happened next completely changed everything. It was a Tuesday in February. Cold, gray, the kind of day where the sky feels low and heavy. Derek showed up at my door unannounced, which was unusual. He was fidgety. Couldn't make eye contact. He sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where he'd done his homework as a kid, the same table where we'd had Christmas dinners and birthday breakfasts, and he slid a folder across to me. Inside was a stack of documents. Legal-looking. Dense. And at the top was a number, $412,347. I looked up. Derek, what is this? He cleared his throat. Mom, I need you to listen to me and not freak out. I already felt my heart hammering. He explained, in this bizarre, businesslike tone, like he was reading from a script, that the investment had experienced complications. That Travis's firm had collapsed. That there were creditors involved. And that somehow, because of the way the documents had been structured, my name was tied to the debt. But I only gave you $60,000, I said. I know, he said. But you signed as a co-guarantor on the secondary funding. Remember that paperwork Travis had you sign? I thought back. There had been additional paperwork. I'd asked what it was. Derek had told me it was just standard investor documentation. I had trusted him. I had signed. Derek, I said slowly, are you telling me that I'm legally responsible for $412,000 of debt that I didn't know I was taking on? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, Mom, the creditors have been patient, but they need payment by Friday or they're going to start taking action. Legal action. Against you. I sat there for a long moment. My mouth went completely dry. And what about your money? I asked. What about the $40,000 you put in? He looked away. And in that split second, just that half-second glance toward the window, I knew. He hadn't put in $40,000. Or if he had, he'd already gotten it back somehow. This wasn't happening to Derek. This had been done by Derek. I thought that was the worst part. I was wrong. Because 2 days later, I called Melissa. I needed to tell someone. I needed my daughter. And she already knew. She had known for months. Derek had called her, apparently trying to get her to help convince me to cooperate with the repayment plan. She had said no, but she also hadn't called me. She hadn't warned me. When I asked her why, there was this long, painful silence on the phone. Mom, she finally said. I didn't want to get in the middle of it. I hung up. I sat in my kitchen in complete silence for what felt like an hour. The house felt different. The walls felt thinner. Everything I thought was solid suddenly seemed like it was made of paper. My own son had used my love for him as a weapon. My own daughter had watched it happen and said nothing. I won't pretend I handled it with grace. I didn't. The first night, I cried until I physically couldn't anymore. Not the quiet, dignified kind of crying. The ugly kind. The kind where you're sitting on your bathroom floor at midnight shaking, and you're not even sure exactly what you're crying for: the money, the betrayal, the years of trust that turned out to be a performance. I kept asking myself the same question over and over: how did I not see it? And the answer was devastating: I had seen it. There had been signs. The urgency, the pressure, the way every answer led to another question. I had pushed the doubts down because the alternative, believing my son was capable of this, was too painful to hold. Love makes you blind in the most dangerous way. Not because it can't see clearly, but because it chooses not to. I couldn't sleep. I'd walk through the house at night, touching things: the wooden banister Gerald had installed himself, the quilt my mother had made, the photographs on the hallway wall. 30 years of a life. And now someone wanted me to liquidate it to cover debt I didn't knowingly take on. I called an attorney. I won't get into all the legal details, because honestly, it was complicated and expensive and exhausting, but the short version is this: the paperwork I had signed was real. Whether I'd understood what I was signing or not didn't change the legal exposure. The attorney said fighting it could take years and cost as much as settling. I had a deadline. I had no good options. And I had no one I trusted. That's when something shifted in me. Not anger. I'd moved past anger. Something quieter. Colder. More deliberate. I started making a plan. I did not contact Derek. I did not respond to any of his calls or texts after that Tuesday. I did not answer Melissa's messages either. Instead, I got very quiet and I got very busy. I called a realtor, not the one in town who knew my family, but one in a neighboring county. I listed the house. Quietly. As a private sale. I priced it to move fast and got an offer within a week. I called my financial advisor and liquidated a portion of my retirement accounts. Yes, there were penalties, yes it hurt, and I paid off the creditors directly. I negotiated the balance down to $290,000 using an attorney who specialized in debt settlements. It wiped out a huge portion of what I had. But it was done. My name was clean. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being backed into a corner. When you have absolutely nothing left to lose, you become incredibly focused. I wasn't rebuilding the same life. I was building a different one. I had a sister in Asheville, North Carolina, Carol. We'd grown apart over the years, but she'd always been steady and real. I called her. Told her everything. She didn't hesitate for a second. Come stay with me. Stay as long as you need. I packed what mattered: photographs, Gerald's watch, my mother's quilt, my important documents, 2 suitcases of clothes, into my car. And on a Thursday morning, before anyone in my life expected anything, I drove away. No note for Derek. No call to Melissa. No goodbye to the neighbors. I just disappeared. And for the first time in months, I could breathe. I want to be honest with you. I didn't engineer what happened next. I didn't plot it or plan it. But karma doesn't need your help. It really doesn't. About 3 months after I left Ohio, my attorney called me with news. It turned out Derek and Travis had run this same scheme on at least 4 other people, mostly older investors, mostly women, mostly people who trusted someone close to them. One of the other victims had a son who happened to be a retired FBI agent. He had started digging the moment his mother told him what happened. By the time investigators started pulling on that thread, it unraveled fast. Travis's consulting firm didn't exist in any real legal sense. The Florida development project had never broken ground. The money had been funneled through a series of LLCs into personal accounts that Travis and Derek had both been drawing from. Derek had been in on it from the beginning. Not a victim. A co-architect. He was arrested on a Tuesday, almost exactly 1 year after he had sat at my kitchen table and slid that folder across to me. I didn't feel triumphant when my attorney told me. I want to be clear about that. I felt tired. Deeply, deeply tired. Because the man who got arrested wasn't a stranger. He was my son. And no matter what he'd done, that still meant something to me, even if I couldn't fully explain it. But I also felt justified. Because I hadn't destroyed myself trying to save him. I had walked away. And in walking away, I had inadvertently let the truth catch up to him on its own timeline. A few months later, Melissa called me. A real call this time, not a check-in, not a formality. She was crying almost immediately. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have called you. I should have warned you. I was scared of Derek and I was scared of the drama and I made the wrong choice and I know that." We talked for 2 hours. It wasn't resolution, not yet. Trust doesn't rebuild in a single phone call. But it was a beginning. Derek was convicted. He served time. I don't know the exact details and honestly, I stopped following it because I needed to stop following it. Watching his story wasn't the same as living mine. I am still in Asheville. I have a small apartment now, rented, modest, nothing like the house I left behind. My sister and I have coffee every Saturday morning. I volunteer at a community center 2 afternoons a week, helping older adults with basic financial literacy, how to read documents before signing them, who to call if someone is pressuring them, how to protect themselves. I don't say this to sound noble. I say it because it's what made sense to me. The thing that broke me became the thing I understand best. I am 62 years old. I have less money than I planned to have. My retirement looks different than I thought it would. My family is fractured in ways that may never fully heal. And yet, some mornings I sit on my little balcony with a cup of coffee and watch the Blue Ridge Mountains in the distance, and I feel something I couldn't have predicted after everything I went through. Peace. Real peace. Not the peace of someone who got everything they wanted. The peace of someone who survived something that should have destroyed them, and chose to keep going anyway. Here's what I know now that I wish I had known before. Love is not a blank check. It is not a reason to stop thinking. The people who hurt us most in this world are almost never strangers. They are the ones we lowered our guard for because we believed they were safe. And that's not our fault. But protecting ourselves is our responsibility. Walk away when you need to walk away. Rebuild what you can rebuild. And trust that the truth has a way of catching up to people who deserve it, even when you're not the one doing the chasing. I didn't get my money back. I didn't get my old life back. But I got something Derek never planned to give me. A second chance. On my terms. In a life I actually chose. And that? Nobody can put a price on that. If this story hit close to home, drop a comment below. You are not alone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. New stories every week. I'll see you in the next one.